It's another divestment disaster!
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today.
Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue.
Former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay is being made to pay almost $10,000 in child support to her ex-husband Brian Abasolo. Now, Rachel Lindsay was the first black woman to be featured on the ABC reality show The Bachelorette, and after courting multiple suitors, she eventually gave her final rose to Brian Abasolo, a white man, and wound up looking to pursue a relationship after the show ended. Now, after the show eventually ended in 2018, this is where Rachel Lindsay wound up in a fiscal situation where she couldn't see the subtle politics transpiring around her because she was basically spellbound because she got the white man that she deified and worshipped of her dreams in Brian Abasolo. And as she got involved in this relationship, she couldn't see the chess moves that Brian Abasolo was making as he was courting her. Now, as Rachel Lindsay was basically mesmerized by Brian Abasolo's crystal blue eyes and creamy white skin, he was basically making chess moves as related to his fiscal situation, and in his fiscal situation, he didn't want to be in a place where he made more money than Rachel Lindsay. Now, Brian Abasolo was a chiropractor, and he eventually wound up quitting his job as a chiropractor, and as he wound up quitting his job, he then followed Rachel Lindsay to her home in Dallas where she was an attorney. And as Rachel Lindsay was out here being an attorney, she eventually was getting more opportunities as related to finding other jobs, and eventually she was getting offers for doing different things, and eventually she wound up, as Brian eventually wanted to move to Florida to start another business, Rachel got offers to do podcasts and also got an offer to do reporting on Extra, and eventually Rachel Lindsay started making far more money than Brian Abasolo was making. Now, as the relationship was going on, eventually Rachel Lindsay eventually married Brian Abasolo in 2019, and as she married Brian Abasolo in 2019, she thought that she got the white man of her dreams that she would be able to divest from the black community from, and thought that she would be able to go on to happily ever after until about 2020. Now, in 2020, that's when the entire relationship between Rachel Lindsay and Brian Abasolo wound up ending abruptly, and ended abruptly because what Brian Abasolo did was, as he sat at the table with Rachel Lindsay in California, what he did was just go out here and decided to end the marriage in a text message, because in that text message he told Rachel Lindsay he was filing for divorce, and that was not really a shock to Rachel because she really didn't spend much time with this Brad. No, she didn't really spend much time with him over the course of the relationship, and both of them had separate finances, but the whole thing is that Rachel Lindsay didn't see was the subtle politics transpiring around her in this game of chess that Brian Abasolo was playing. And as Brian Abasolo played this game of chess, he basically wound up putting himself in a fiscal situation where he would be able to benefit from Rachel Lindsay's economic situation. And as he benefited from that economic situation, he basically, as he was filing for divorce, was looking for a way to get paid at her expense. Now, when it comes to many of these swirlers and divestors, they oftentimes get mesmerized and spellbound by the white men that they deify and worship, And as they get mesmerized by these white men, they don't really see the bigger economic picture regarding their lives. Now, I go in depth on this in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And in that book, I talk about how many black women think that white men and non-black men are an option if they can't find a black man to have a relationship with. And oftentimes, because these women get caught up in these relationships with these men based on their feelings, they don't really think about the bigger picture as related to their finances. Because when it comes to white and non-black men, oftentimes when they go out here and they're thinking about getting married, marriage for them is a business, and it's a business where they're looking to build wealth and get a profit for themselves. So when they get involved with a woman, it's not really because they are in love with that woman. What they are in love with is that woman's ability to be able to make money. And these guys, basically, they're looking for a payday at the expense of that woman, because a lot of times these are guys who really cannot compete in the social marketplace as men. Because when it comes to men of character are looking to build with a woman, and they're looking to be the leader of the relationship, where they're looking to build an economic base for their family that they want to build with that woman. However, when it comes to many black women who buy into the narratives of swirling and divesting, many of these women, what they want to do is go out here and be the one who's going to lead the man. Unfortunately, what they do is get misled by many of these white and non-black men, and they get misled because they get mesmerized by those crystal blue eyes and that creamy white skin, and the idea of being able to get social currency with their other black female girlfriends by saying they got a white man. But what they can't see is the bigger picture economically for themselves, because one of the reasons why this bottom shelf Brad basically wound up choosing that black woman is basically because he can't compete in the white male social marketplace. So he's going down to the black female social marketplace because he wants to get a come up at her expense. And that's what happened here with Brian Abasolo, who was basically making these chess moves that I could easily see based on the story. He was making chess moves to make sure that his fiscal situation was one where he was making less money than she was, and doing this because he knew under California's community property laws, he would be the one who would be benefiting because he was making less money. And since he was making less money, what he would be able to do is just be able to get that spousal support because he's making less money than she is according to the law. Because according to the law, it states that the partner who makes more money than the other partner, that's the one who has to pay the spousal support, and they have to pay the spousal support to maintain the lifestyle that the other partner had. So as Rachel Lindsay was going out here having this Hollywood lifestyle, what happened with Brian Abasolo was he was thinking of a way to maintain that lifestyle for himself, where he wouldn't have to deal with Rachel Lindsay and be able to maintain that lifestyle for himself without ever having to deal with a wife long term. So basically what he was looking to do was a series of chess moves to make himself a guy who was going to be taken care of by a woman. And that's what a lot of these bottom shelf Brads and these guys who want to get involved with black women, who want to swirl and divest, really want to do. And Brian Abasolo, basically, he's not content with just getting 10 grand a month from Rachel Lindsay. No, he wants even more money. What he really wants to get is $16,000 a month, which is what Gabriel Aubrey was getting from Halle Berry back when he wound up breaking up with her after a domestic violence incident where Halle Berry tried to manipulate Olivier Martinez into fighting him, and that's when Gabriel Aubrey eventually brought the hammer of white supremacy down on Halle Berry in an effort to get the child support from her. And what these men are basically doing is finessing the family court system and finessing the family court system, because what they see with people like Rachel Lindsay is that they're naive and gullible and completely spellbound. And with them being naive and gullible and completely spellbound and mesmerized by those crystal blue eyes and that creamy white skin, they're not really, again, thinking about their fiscal situation. No, that's what this man is really thinking about, and he's thinking about it critically as this woman is caught up in her emotions. As she's caught up in her emotions, this man is sitting there thinking about a way to create an economic situation that's going to benefit him long term. And that's what happened here with Brian Abasolo. And as this was going on, Rachel Lindsay was putting on a facade, talking about how she had her white man, even though she had to split bills with him when she was with him, and she didn't really get many dates with him, and she didn't really possibly want many dates, because what she wanted to do was use this white man to clout chase in black social circles. But at the end of the day, she's now in a situation where she can no longer clout chase, because this man has basically embarrassed her because he took this educated, strong, independent black woman and wound up turning her out. And basically, I believe all those guys who were on The Bachelorette with her, especially the black guys, who she basically tossed out of the competition, like Kane in the 2001 Royal Rumble. I mean, if you watch the original Bachelorette footage, she basically took a high-value man who was black in the first episode and tossed him over the top rope and eliminated him in the first episode. She didn't care about that black man being an attorney. She didn't care about that black man wearing a $5,000 Brioni suit and designer shoes. No, she basically tossed him out of the competition for her rose faster than Steve Blackman or Scotty Too Hottie in the 2001 Royal Rumble. And in subsequent episodes, she wound up tossing black men out of that show, like Kane in the 2001 Royal Rumble. I remember one episode where 3 black men were tossed out of the competition, and one where 4 more were tossed. And I remember one episode where she kept one light-skinned brother towards the end and basically was setting him up to be tossed over the top rope and to be smashed through a table. Well, she went out here and picked her ideal white man and wanted to go out here and rub that white man in all of black America's faces, as she was going to show us all how she was going to #divest from the black community. But sadly, what's happened with Rachel Lindsay is that attempt to divest has become a divestment disaster. A divestment disaster, because instead of her going on to happily ever after, what's happened here is that Brian Abasolo is going on to an economic happily ever after at her expense, and possibly will be going out here and getting involved with a Becky and building a family, all while he's sitting there getting paid as she's getting played. And getting played because she doesn't understand, again, the subtle politics transpiring around her as related to the system of white supremacy, while many black women and many black men who are passport bros think that it's all a diversity melting pot. They don't really understand that when it comes to white supremacy, they're not looking to melt with anyone. They're looking to get paid, because, again, I'll repeat it once more, for whites and non-blacks, marriage is not based on feelings. No, marriage is a business, and they are looking to go in that business to profit, to 1, build wealth, and 2, looking to go out here and make money as related to that marriage. Usually when you have white and non-black people, they'll come together not out of love, but they come together to profit. And basically what Brian Abasolo was doing was looking to set Rachel Lindsay up so that he could profit. And now that he's getting paid, Rachel Lindsay is sitting there sad, talking about she wished she knew what was going on. And maybe if Rachel Lindsay had picked up my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, she would have been put up on game as related to these white men, and possibly put up on game as related to why her relationships were failing with black men, because I remember watching one episode of The Bachelorette where Rachel Lindsay introduced Brian to her family, and all of the members of her family were with white people, showing the deep self-hatred Rachel Lindsay had learned over the course of being in that dysfunctional family. And all she's learned from this whole situation is that when you don't love yourself, you just get taken advantage of. And sadly, when you get taken advantage of, you don't divest the happily ever after. No, all you wind up is in a divestment disaster. Now, if you want to learn how to avoid getting jammed up like Rachel Lindsay, you can pick up my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, and learn all the reasons why so many black women out here are struggling to be able to have relationships with black men, and struggling to have relationships overall because they've learned a dysfunctional life paradigm of failure that takes them out of God's natural order. And you can find that book on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can also find Why 70% of Black Women Are Single at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me take more celebrities to the barbecue, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App to help me stay on the air and keep cooking up these celebrities like hot links and sausage. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available for the first time in paperback, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Learn all the reasons why so many black women can't find a husband and why 70% of black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today.
Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.